Hey everyone, welcome to Hammer Bros Gaming. I am Blades of God, and today we are going to be taking you through another Gears 5 escape map on Master Difficulty. With me as always I have Pyro and Mr. Beardsley, and for the classes we're going to be running for this map, I myself am going to be running Protector, focusing on the melee damage, the bubble shields for defense, and the bleed damage. Pyro is running the Marksman class, using a increased long shot damage card as well as ambush, critical damage increase, critical headshot explosion, and Mr. Beardsley is running demolitions, focusing on that explosive bleed. He's not bringing the boom card, the custom boom shot card though, because we don't get boom shots in this map. So let's look at the modifiers for the Mist. We have strength in numbers. Sires have less health but are more present. More health, more lethal, freezing grenadiers, regen penalty, reflective shell scions, and Iron Man. So grenadiers, whether they shoot you or use a melee attack, are going to inflict freezing damage. Scions will gain a reflective shell when they are at about half health, reflecting all damage, including existing bleed damage back at you. So if you run a class that has bleed, be very careful. You want to use your guns that don't cause bleed to whittle down their health a little bit first, let that shell activate, and then finish them off after the shell wears off. And then regen penalty is our health regenerates 50% slower. So let's get right into the map here. As you can see, there's a few Lancers lying on the ground right when you start, which is helpful if you're not playing as a Protector class, so you can deal with the Sires. And we're going to come to the second level of this room, as it is the only path that we can take. As soon as we come through this door, we're going to face some enemies. We have some drones as well as grenadiers, and we have some hunters. The hunters can be the torque bow variety. We had the sniper variety on this map, or I should say on the run of this map, but that works out well because we're running the Marksman card, and the Marksman has that good long shot damage increase. We're off to a bit of a rough start here just because I got downed a couple of times, but not a big deal. We're going to recover just in no time at all here. You can see that we do have poppers coming through here, and the poppers can be either the flame variety as you see, or the shock variety. So either way, it doesn't really change the tactic for dealing with them. The Protector can take them out in one hit, and that pool of fire or the pool of electricity that they leave behind is actually pretty beneficial, as it can prevent other juvies from advancing on you. So once you clear out that first group of enemies, you're just going to follow the map. There's only one path that you can take, so we're going to advance down this corridor, kind of over this balcony, and then down into this semi-open area with a catwalk above us. What you're going to want to do here, or what we do, is we have our sniper, our marksman, post up sort of in that doorway that's right behind me here. We actually ended up losing Beardsley very early in this run, but not a problem. We'll pick him up again when we get to the safe room. So as we make our way through the first half of this map, it would be much easier if we had our demolitionist with us, but we don't, so not a problem. We're just going to carry on. As I said, right in the doorway, the marksman's going to post up and clean up that catwalk first, take out the few drones that are up there. The Protector is going to kind of hang out around these two pillars and use them for cover. The big thing you want to be careful of, obviously, besides the drop shot, is don't let the Sires sneak by you. So you want to make sure that as the Protector, you are prioritizing taking down the Sires and taking down any juvies that try to get by. Once your marksman has cleaned up all of the enemies on the upper level, you're going to want him to start focusing in on those drop shot scions. 2 active reload bullets is enough to take out a scion, even on master difficulty. So that's going to be the marksman's big responsibility through most of this map, is taking the scions off the board, so we don't have to worry about any of our bleed characters hurting themselves when the bleed damage takes effect. You can see here I'm picking up a drop shot, and that's not for myself. I'm actually going to carry that drop shot forward to the safe room for Beardsley, so when he spawns back in, he will have an explosive weapon to start right off the bat. And as soon as you get past those 2 drop shot scions, we're going to go through the door that they came in, or came out of, I suppose, head up this ramp, and then through this large open doorway, and you can actually close this door behind you so you don't have enemies spawning in behind you. And this is not strictly necessary. I don't believe we have a lot of enemies at this point that would be coming up behind us, but it doesn't hurt to just be extra sure to make sure you're not going to get surrounded. So there you go. You see Pyro just closed that door up, so we're not going to get snuck up on. And then the only way that we can advance is down this bridge, and this is the catwalk that Pyro was sniping at earlier. You can see I'm just marking some ammo there so Pyro can refill his long shot. I'm not using much in the way of ammo, so he's able to clean up all of that to keep himself topped up on ammunition. So now we're going to come to this big room, and again, we have a sort of a catwalk and a room, an elevated room, and that's where we're going to head to eventually. But the first thing we're going to do is we're going to clean up a lot of these enemies on the lower level. You're going to be facing grenadiers, kind of a mixed bag. We get grenadiers, we get juvies, we get sires, and eventually we're going to have a couple more drop shot scions coming through. So we sit back, we don't really push very hard here. You can see that the venom, even the early venom, hasn't reached us yet. So we're just going to take our time and let the enemy numbers sort of thin out and just take them on one or two at a time. Right here, I like to use my bubble shield. You can see I was getting pretty good amount of freeze damage put on me. So I dropped that bubble shield to prevent myself from freezing up. And since nothing can shoot through there, it gives the protector the advantage. Since melee attacks can go through the shield, but bullets can't, I can just sit on the edge of that barrier and melee enemies as they get close and then fall back if they start shooting at me. So, as I said, we're not really pushing all that hard. We're just kind of taking the enemies one or two at a time as they come at us. You can see the numbers are starting to slow down. We got a few more sires on the way. But what you're really waiting for is for those scions to show up so your marksman can take them out. Like I said, once we do finish up the enemies down here, we're going to head to that elevated room. And from there, we're going to have a good vantage point on the remaining enemies right before the safe room. So you can see I'm actually searching for where the scions are to try to mark them. There's the first one, and Pyro is going to eventually take them out using long shot. You can see he's going to work right now on him a little bit. There's one, and then there's one more who's going to be coming. So don't push up yet. I'm trying to use the flame nades here to do a little bit of distance work, but unfortunately I missed my throw and that drone just runs away, so nothing doing there. And like I said, it's just waiting. The enemies have definitely slowed down, so we know there's not many left, and I'm just working on protecting Pyro, making sure those sires or the juvies don't get up to him, and waiting for that other scion to show up so Pyro can take him off the board. I do push up a little bit to the stairs that we're going to take here just because I wanted to try to pull some of those last enemies from the safe room forward, and it doesn't work super well. I didn't want to risk going any further than this just in case I got caught out in the open with a grenadier or that, like I said, that last scion. And I saw that there were poppers coming up, so I was kind of head back and try to support Pyro and just make sure that he doesn't get overrun with up-close enemies, just because he's running long shot and lancer and he doesn't really have anything to deal with an up-close threat. So you see there, Pyro ended up getting downed, and not a big deal. I run back to revive him. There was a popper right there, so we were a little worried that that popper was going to detonate and take Pyro off the board, but it didn't end up happening. We got him back on his feet, and I got very close here to being decapitated by a sire. As I said, Pyro doesn't have a whole lot in the way of close-range weaponry, but he meleeed like a madman to get me free. And with that, we waited as long as we could until for the last scion to show up. He didn't end up coming forward this time, so we got a little nervous that the deadly venom was creeping too close, so we're going to go ahead and push up anyway. And something you just saw there with that execution, something to take note of is the triple melee execution. If you're not familiar with that, if you're using a standard controller and a standard controller layout to play Gears 5, you're going to push B to melee, B a second time, and that second melee will stun your enemy, and then press and hold B, and on the third time when you press and hold B, you're going to end up executing the enemy. So you can see I'm trying to spot out some of these enemies so Pyro could go to work. We had two sires sneak up on him, and one of them downed him. But thankfully, again, my protector's bleed damage takes sires out very, very fast, especially on this map when they have reduced health. And I'm looking at the mini-map, and I can see that there is a marked enemy who is making his way up. And there he is, just the drone, and just kicked him down. Thankfully, the kick does bleed damage as well. We have a few more enemies to deal with, but we are just about at the safe room. That scion finally decides to show up over here on the left. I come over here to take out this sire, and I happen to see the scion's head. So Pyro's going to take him out right there on that walkway. You can see kind of the drop shot. There he is. And I fall back again because these sires, they just like to try to circle around as best they can, and I wasn't letting Pyro get taken down. So the scion is now off the board, and all the enemies are dealt with except for that one red arrow that you can see on to the left of where we are now. And that's actually a sniper who fell back and I guess thought he could shoot through the wall, so we're gonna take him out, and unfortunately when we do, we actually trigger a couple more sires to spawn in. But not a big deal. Pyro ends up getting downed again and grabbed, but thankfully, as I just said, my bleed damage, my melee is high enough that just a couple of hits and it's enough to stun the sire and then kill him with the bleed damage. So there we go, we're through the first half of the map, into the safe room, and once we get into the safe room and close the door, Beardsley is going to actually respawn in the safe room. There he is, you can see his silhouette, and we're just going to skip the safe room at this point. There's not much in here, there's a good amount of ammo, and you want to load up on that if you're running low, especially the marksman. But right off the bat, when we come out of the safe room into the second act, we're going to be in the middle of, or in for a very large fight. We're going to have torque bow hunters along with elite rifle drones and a couple more drop shot scions. So what we like to do, again, we're going to have Pyro sit back and do a lot of the snipe work, focusing on those scions. Beardsley is using the drop shot that you see I dropped for him in the safe room. He picked that up, so he's going to be able to start using that bleed damage. And I'm going to run up ahead here. I like going up that right path because it has some pretty good cover, and try to circle around some of these enemies, especially the torque bow hunters. And I end up running torque bow at this point just because it does give me a really good one-shot distance weapon that isn't a long shot. So another good benefit of this is that if Beardsley runs out of explosives, I can drop the torque bow and he can keep working that explosive bleed. So here we go, we're through the first area. Pyro took out the drop shot scions, and we're just working together to take out the remaining hunters. And I'm going to gather up as much of the torque bow ammo as I can. Come around this side here, and we're going to hit this ammo room, or I say we, but actually Pyro and Beardsley are going to hit that ammo room. I'm going to move up with my torque bow and start cleaning up some of the enemies in this next section. The nice thing about the torque bow, as opposed to almost every other firearm in the game, is that when you're shooting at the grenadiers and they have their helmets on, the torque bow is actually enough to cause a headshot in one hit. It doesn't just knock off the helmet, it actually kills them in one shot. So that's what I'm doing right here, just trying to do a few headshots, take out as many of the enemies as I can before my allies get up here. And what we're going to do is we're just waiting for that Matriarch to show up. We're going to thin the rank as much as we can and take out as many enemies as we can. But our method for dealing with the Matriarch is actually to lock her in the ammo room that we just got done raiding. If we were running the Infiltrator and had some better bleed damage, we definitely could kill her. But with the limited amount of bleed damage we have available and the amount of time that the finale, or getting to the finale, takes, we have found it best to just lead her back to that ammo room and lock her in, and then you don't have to worry about her anymore. Another option is trying to use shock grenades. She does seem to take quite a bit of damage from shock grenades, so that's another tactic you can use if you want to try to take her out. But again, in our experience, this seems to be just about the fastest and easiest method for neutralizing her and just taking her off the board. Something else to note about the ammo room that we're going to be locking her in is that there is a Lancer GL in there, and you want to make sure that your Demolitions player does pick that up, because the grenades from that will do a lot of bleed damage, and it will be very, very useful for the end of the map when we get to the Helipad. So here we go, you can see that we've fallen all the way back to the ammo room. It is important to keep a good pace if you're going to try this method, because that venom catches up to you at this point very quickly. You can see the deadly venom is right next to us on the mini-map there, but this is a fairly quick run. You probably could do it a little faster than this, just trying to lure her in there. But once she's in, have somebody close the door, and now she is completely neutralized. She will continue to try to throw her spines at you. You'll hear her and actually see the screen shake a little bit, like right there, but she can't actually do anything to you. So we're returning to where we first ran into the Matriarch, and we're going to push up a little bit further, and behind this, I don't know if it's a mine car or a train car or trolley, but behind this there's a door, and we're going to go through this door and close it behind us. And again, this is strictly so nothing can circle around behind us and flank us, and we're going to come up to this upper level, and it's sort of a catwalk that overlooks the very end of the map. It actually looks right at the doorway to the Helipad. And Pyro and Beardsley are going to post up on this catwalk and start doing work trying to take out as many enemies as they can that are coming in through that door, because there's a large spawn of enemies that spawn on the Helipad and that push in. I, as the protector, am going to run down to the end of the catwalk, and I'm going to kind of post up right on this corner and try to take out as many sires as I can. You're going to see, I'm going to look to the left here in just a minute, and there's going to be a ton of enemies coming up around. You can see right there, that was a scion, and there's a few grenadiers coming in, so I start going to work, doing a little bit of work that I can with my torque bow, but I saw Beardsley was down, so I fell back because I knew we were going to need his explosive bleed to get through this. And again, there's another great example of the torque bow taking out a grenadier with a helmet in one shot. So Pyro threw a flash grenade, and the nice thing about this is that the elevated position does give you some cover from the enemies down below. So you sort of have a bottleneck right on these steps. And Beardsley, unfortunately, he had gotten some bleed damage going on the Scion. The Scion activated his reflective shell, and that downed Beardsley. Pyro got downed by an enemy down below him, so both of my allies were down. I revived Beardsley. The Scion hit him again, downed him again, but after all that craziness, we're on our feet. All three of us are up and going, and we are pushing towards the Helipad. You're going to want to do your best to conserve explosive ammo if you're the demolitionist, and you're going to want to be searching around for shocks or flash grenades. You can see we're doing a quick inventory search or inventory check right now to see who has what, and we are a little dismayed to find out that Pyro has one smoke grenade, I have one flash grenade, Beardsley has no grenades, and only a little bit of drop shot ammo. So we are kind of not in a great situation for this door hold. But thankfully, the poppers that show up are the electric poppers, the shock poppers. So they're going to end up creating a large pool of electricity that a lot of these enemies have to run through. And thankfully, one of the main enemies that comes through the door are sires, and sires are easy enough to deal with because of my protector's bleed and melee damage. And the scions that were trying to make it out, they just didn't make it. But that's it. We managed to get through the map, doors are closed, and that's the end. So that's it for the Mist, guys. I hope you found this guide helpful. Take care of yourselves, and until next time, bye-bye. Hey everyone, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more content like this, please like and subscribe. You can also check us out on Twitch at Hammer Bros Gaming. I am Blades of God, and until next time, have a great day, everyone.